Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Gleesy.
And I'm Al.
And here, Forever I Do, we teach you how to brag
Build your relationship
according to God. So, y'all, it is part 2 of our intentional conversations, okay? Because we are done. We are done with failed marriages. We are done with divorce.
Really?
Y'all, we are breaking the cycles, okay?
Yes.
And breaking the cycle starts with having intentional conversations. So, this week, we are talking about kids.
Yes. Topic number 2.
It's
all about those kids.
About the kids, y'all. Now, like I said, y'all, we're not going surface level anymore. Okay?
So this is not just about do you want kids?
Yes.
Or do you not want kids?
Yes.
There's a lot more that goes into that, just like we said with finances. So let's dig a little deeper to go higher, y'all.
But there's a lot of other stuff that needs to be discussed, like how do you want to raise them kids? You know, what about the grandparents? Like who's going to watch them?
Daycare.
Yeah. Let's not talk about daycare. That's a whole nother video for another day. But like, there's so many different subtitles or subcategories that you have to discuss when you're talking about having kids. Like having the kids is the easy. Well, let me not say having the kids is the easy one, but that's the beginning. Yeah. That is definitely not the end. There's a lot that goes into raising children.
Yeah. So you can talk about, like we have here, like, do you both want kids? That's up front.
Yeah.
Have that understanding, have that agreement at least. Do you both want kids? Because again, you don't want to get down a road 6 months, a year down the line, and you find out that somebody never had any intentions on having kids. Yeah. Like that's not something that they saw for their future, even in a marriage. So do you both want kids? And then you got to ask the question of when, because in some cases, maybe you are at a age or a level of maturity in your life where you feel like that clock is ticking, and
it needs to be sooner than later.
Yes, you want to have kids within the first year or two of marriage. Meanwhile, they're thinking, well, 5-10 years down the road, like we do some traveling, we have a house, we build our careers, and then we look having kids. And the only conversation you had was whether or not you wanted to have them.
Yeah.
And now and again, something pops up later on down the line because there was the thought of agreement there, but there was actually no actual alignment in how you wanted it to happen. So when do you want to have kids? How many?
I wanted 5, y'all.
Yeah. And again, we had to have that conversation. She's talking about 5, and I'm like, I'm good with 1. But then as we had the conversation, we had to come to an understanding to bring ourselves into alignment and say, well, we're both good with this number. But again, we had to have that conversation,
right?
Because you don't want to again have that surprise pop up on you, and she thinking we're gonna have 5, and you thinking after 1 like y'all done, and she like, what do you mean? We just getting started. Like again, the process may be exciting to you, but now you all stressed out because you like, I never planned for no 5 kids. How are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do that? So talk about all of the things again. Surrounding that topic. Do you want them? When do you want them? How many? Like, are you open to adoption or other things? Like, in case you can't physically have children, like have you explored those other things? Like, have you talked about those other things? Maybe you feel like your time has passed already and you only want to look into adoption. Like, you have to talk about all of those things before you say I do, before you get to the point where you're kind of laying down to have them.
Yeah. And I think another area that you need to look at is how you want to raise them.
Yes,
you know, like
absolutely.
What is your parenting style? And I do feel like things can shift, you know, like your parenting styles can shift, you know, like gentle parenting, traditional parenting, spanking versus non-spanking. Like those are conversations that you definitely need to have. And I think you need to have those conversations probably more often than you don't, because like I said, things can shift for you. Yeah. There was a conversation that we had to have, like on our last vision retreat, we talked parenting style, and it was different than what it was before. And that was very interesting for us to tackle almost 20 years into marriage. And, our oldest is 13. So it was very interesting having that conversation and having to hash it out.
Yes, because again, like you lay out that vision, but you need to have, again, like in order to lay out the vision, you have to have that alignment, you have to have that agreement, and you have to have an understanding of what baggage are you bringing into your marriage relationship when it comes to parenting. Like, what did you see growing up?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we don't unpack that part of our relationship. We don't unpack, like, how were we parented, and the impact that it may have had on us that is now determining how we want to parent. So we saw all the things we didn't want to do, and because we felt like the spankings were a little bit overboard. So now we say, I'm not going to spank at all, or I'm not even going to discipline. I want my kids to have this free reign to do whatever it is that they feel like they need to do. I want them to have the freedom of expression. But we're actually parenting out of trauma because of what we experience on the far left end. We want to go to the far right extreme,
Yeah.
and neither one may be the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like, you got to unpack some of that trauma so that you aren't having the adverse effect on your children instead of the positive impact that you thought you would have by going to an opposite extreme. So, do you want a gentle parent? Do you believe in discipline? Again, like, we had to have that conversation, and we had to make sure we were in alignment with what God says about raising children. And I don't know if it's in any gentle parenting in the Bible. So we had to have those conversations and unpack, what does it look like to, again, discipline your children in a healthy way, not in a traumatizing way that maybe you have experienced.
Yeah. And then, like, the topic of like education for your kids. So growing up for me, I went to Catholic school. I went to public school. So, that's a conversation. Like, what do you want for your kids? Do you want them to go to private school? Do you want the public education? There's so many conversations to be had within that, but that's something that you want to talk about. Do you want the homeschool? I know for a long time, that's what I said. I was like, oh, I'm going to be a homeschooler, y'all.
And then COVID happened.
I'm not cut out the homeschool. It's not for me.
Yeah.
But like, that's something that I thought that I wanted, but I never shared that. Yeah. Did you ever know I wanted to homeschool?
We eventually had that
conversation. Yeah. But what if I was just like, babe, I'm quitting my job and I'm homeschooling? Like, that could cause a little bit of friction. But
and
yes.
Then she would have quit being a teacher to go back to work. So.
Yes, I would have. Yeah. If you homeschool your children, I have so much respect for you. God bless you.
Yeah. But you got to have that conversation, education, because that can even determine where you want to live.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're just the nature of the way the world is. There are some places that are better to educate your children than others. So you want to see, like, maybe you want to move to a certain school district because you like the way their education system is. You like the diversity or whatever it is. It can implicate or be an implication into other decisions that you make as far as your family life goes. So again, you got to talk about that. I think you mentioned earlier, like, you got to talk about how involved do you want the parents,
I know,
the godparents,
I know,
and all of those things. How involved do you want them to be with raising your children?
Yeah, I really, really wanted my mom to be able to babysit my kids because it was somebody that I trusted, someone that I felt comfortable with my kids being with. But because of our proximity, it did not work out that way. So like, we had to become even more creative about building those relationships with our in-laws. But that's important. If you have a baby and it's just like, oh, my mom's going to take care of the baby, and you're just like, no, I want the child to go to daycare, or, I want the child to go to this Montessori school, but I really want my mom to watch the baby because that's what I'm comfortable with. Like, these are conversations that you want to have before you even have to have them, so that way, when the time comes, you have something in place.
Yeah. And you can end up unpacking a lot of things again when it comes to even like how involved you want your family to be, because there can be a time where you feel completely comfortable with dropping your kids off with the grandparents, and then all of a sudden you go to pick them up one day and you say, like, did you feed them the foods that I gave them? And they're like, no, I wasn't feeding them that. Did you put them to bed at this time? No, I let them stay up. You used to stay up. And all of a sudden you start questioning your decision. Like, is this what I really want? Because I'm trying to lay the foundation for these values. And when they go to grandma or grandpa's house, those values aren't the same. And now it can start to be some friction because the child starts to show signs of values that are not in alignment, bringing them back to your home. And now you got to unpack the whole nother thing and kind of explain the hierarchy of things. And sometimes it can cause friction with your parents because you say, well, I asked you to do this. And they're like, well, they're in my house and I'm your parent. Ooh. All these things can start to happen. Ooh. So again, like, you want to unpack all of those things. And if like grandma or grandpa is where you want your kids to kind of grow up and have them do the daycare thing for you, you better make sure that you're including them in some of these conversations as well. To make sure that you all are in alignment and in agreement. Yeah. So having the conversation, the deep conversations, the multi-level conversations about kids is so important. It's so much more than yes or no. I want kids. I don't want kids. But it's all these other layers that definitely are conversations that need to be had. Yes. You don't want to discover 10 years in, 5 years in, that one of you, again, is dreaming about the family of 5, and the other is dead set on not having any children at all and spending their life traveling. Have those conversations again today. All right, guys, thank you so much. Was that not a good video? Yeah. I love talking about kids because your kids is your legacy. Yes, that's what's going to be left behind. Like, when people see my kids, like, I want them to be a reflection of me. Yes. So I'm so grateful that we were able to have that conversation. Yes. You want them to be not just a reflection of you, but of your values, of the vision that you've laid out. Because at the end of the day, you don't want your kids running the same race that you ran. You want to pass that baton. This is a relay, y'all. Pass that baton and let them take it a little bit further. All right, guys. If you haven't, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel because we got one more video left for y'all. And if you haven't, go and follow us over on Instagram where we share marriage tips and tricks every single day. All right? We'll see you guys in the next video. Brag on it.